Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Swartz Talking Sports. I'm your host, L. Steven Swartz, but you can call me Les. We have another theme show in store for you tonight. So everyone with the live audience here, it's going to be awesome. Our guest is an amazing guy, a super nice guy, and he'll answer all your questions. So before we start tonight's show, hit that subscribe button. If this is your first time checking out Swartz Talking Sports, we'd love you to subscribe to the show, comment while the show is going on. The great thing about our show versus podcasts are you can actually interact with our guests. Most podcasts, you just have to listen. Here, you can ask questions to our guests, and they will answer you live on the air. So let's start out tonight's exciting show. I have my special co-host for tonight because he's my wrestling insider. We are doing a wrestling-themed show tonight, so let's bring on my special co-host tonight, my wrestling insider from Boston, Massachusetts, via Easton, Mass, Stu Kaplan.
Hey, Les. So happy to be here, man. So
Hey,
happy.
Stu, it's your third appearance on STS, baby.
I'm telling you, the residuals are killing. It's amazing. It's awesome.
What residuals? I don't get residuals.
Don't tell anybody.
Well, listen, we got a great show tonight. We just had the pre-show, and he's just a tremendous guy. I think the audience is really gonna love him. So, before we bring out tonight's special guest, let's have Tony run tonight's open. Now, that was an interesting turn of events right there, going from babyface to heel. We're gonna talk about it with tonight's special guest. You've seen him as the Shockmaster, Typhoon, one half of the Natural Disasters Tag Team Champions, Tugboat, and how about the BADD, Big Steel Man? But we're going to call him by his real name tonight. Let's bring on tonight's special guest, Fred Ottman. Fred!
Hey, how are you doing?
We are doing great. Thanks for taking time to jump on. I know you're going to be traveling in the next day or so. I'm going to get a chance to see you. We're going to be talking about that as the show moves on. But again, thanks so much. You've done so many things here. Look what we have here. We've got one of your One of your figurines here. We both got them.
Yes. That's the San Diego Comic-Con for 2016 exclusive Mattel figure.
The Shockmaster.
And if you turn it around, it shows me falling through the wall.
Oh, there we go.
And it gives the whole storyline.
There we go.
Storyline for the introductions on there.
Which we're going to get into that. I definitely want to get into that moving forward,
Yeah.
as you've progressed in your wrestling career. Stu and I have got a lot of questions. There's hopefully, guys, the people out there that are checking out tonight's show, I know I've been getting texts, questions. Please hit them in the chat. Joni is here. She'll ask the questions to our special guest, Fred Ottman, tonight. So, Fred, let me start it off, and then I'll throw it over to my man, Stu, as we enter the squared circle tonight. Where did it all begin for you? Where did you grow up? What types of sports did you play? And were you always into wrestling as a kid?
I loved wrestling. I always, since I'm 9, 10 years old, Saturday mornings. And I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, okay. South Florida. And in the territory days, Florida Championship Wrestling was the deal down there when I was a kid. And some of the best wrestlers, I remember seeing a skinny Andre the Giant when I was 16, 17 years old. But it was amazing. And they used to, like we were talking about, I didn't go to my first live match, unfortunately, till I was like 16, 17 years old in high school, with guys that wrestled with me in school and played football with me in school. Okay. And it was, like when I said, when I was a kid, you wake up, watch cartoons, Bugs Bunny, Popeye, all that stuff on the, TV in the morning. And then wrestling would come on around 11 o'clock. Mm-hmm. You watched wrestling for an hour with Gordon Soley was the commentator. And then you go out and play with your buddies. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was. I was my youth. And I've always been a incredible wrestling fan. I love the business, and it's not what I went to school for. Actually, I was telling you guys, I was an airline mechanic for a old school airline, Eastern Airlines back in the day, which was based out of Miami. Okay. And but also, on top of that, I wound up, I was training that, and all the guys, I was a power lifter. I played, like I said, I played football. I wrestled a little bit, and I'd wrestle in the off season, to stay in shape for football. And then when I power lifted, and then when I started training, after I left high school, I was training in a gym that was owned by two guys, the two brothers, and they were unfortunately one guy played for the Chicago Bears and he finished up in Miami for the Dolphins, and then his brother worked in the bar business, and they owned a gym together. But when the guys were in town that wrestled, they would train there, and they would come in the gym and everything. There was guys called the Kangaroos. They were from New Zealand, sure. Australia, and they would go. They would come in all the time and ask me, "Man, you ever thought about wrestling? You ever thought about doing this and doing that?" You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, "Nah, not really," and that stuff. And they told me about a guy that I was a big fan of that had a wrestling school on the weekends up in Fort Lauderdale. And finally, one day they talked me into. I went up there, and I went up there to check out the school and talk to the guys that were there and everything. And I went up there, and I liked what I saw, and all the guys were awesome. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. I tried on for size and everything, and I trained, and I got where I was training more and more. Boris Malenko was the head coach, and then his sons, Dean Malenko, the man of 1,000 holds, and his brother, Joey Malenko, were, there, and they worked and trained with the guys and stuff like that. And I started doing that and everything. And I talked to my parents, who had already moved to North Florida and were living up there by Tampa, outside Tampa. And I go, I asked him, I says, I says, what do you think about this? I'm thinking about moving up there and doing that. And my parents were always positive about everything that, I did in that. And I moved up there so I could try, I could work out and I could wrestle, 4 or 5 days a week in that. And it was a hub for the wrestling office in Florida. So it was kind of great. I could go to a live show where they filmed there and by the University of Tampa and, when I wanted to. And it was good atmosphere and great wrestling guys, but that's how I got started. I started when there was territories. My first territory, Malenko got me booked to San Antonio, Texas. I was there about 1.5 years, 2 years. And it was, there were old school guys that were there. Shawn Michaels, the guy that trained him, Jose Lothario, he was working there, and I mean, it's a great territory to start at, for me, and the rest is history. Matter of fact, before I went there, I got booked. Ted Turner had one station then. Malenko sent me up they wanted to take a look at me at up there with Georgia Wrestling. And that's when he only had, before Turner Broadcasting, when he had all, that one station. Mm-hmm. And like I said before, he always had a sweet spot in the heart for professional wrestling because that's the highest paid, advertising time back in the day on his product there. That's why he always, kept them and, took care of them. But what's funny was my first time. A guy drove us up in a Eldorado Cadillac, all right, to go up there. And in the back seat with me was an old school guy named Cyclone Negro.
I remember.
Okay.
From the magazines.
And he's on one side of me. We're all big guys. And I'm in the back seat there. And then the guy over here was a guy, he wrestled under several different names and stuff like that. But I think he wrestled as the Batman in the Carolinas. And he was he had been a bodybuilder and that and all that stuff. But what's funny is we leave out of Tampa on the road and we're out on the road for 10 minutes maybe. All right. Next thing I hear is snoring. Okay. And I got one guy passed out with his head on my right shoulder. The other guy's got his head on my left shoulder. And they're both snoring an opera in the back seat.
Oh, God.
And the guy driving was a guy named Ron Slinker, who also worked in the business. And he goes, "Well, kid, that's how you can tell a real professional. They can sleep anywhere." And I'm like, nice. I wish it wasn't on me.
Yeah. They use you as a pillow.
Yeah. I'm like, what is this? But it was funny.
Well, Stu, what do you have for Fred?
Well, I mean, obviously, the Shockmaster and then, the Tugboat, the natural disasters, that was kind of later in the timeline. But earlier in your wrestling career, like you said, you trained with the Malenkos.
Sure.
Did you more kind of sway to a heel or a baby face? I know we were talking earlier, like you were doing a lot of promos in the mirror. How did you see yourself?
Yeah.
You were a big guy.
Well, I didn't see myself in any, I would never because I was so big, I would never consider myself being a baby face, but in more territories, they use me as a baby face, and I'm like, whatever you want me to do. I was always that way. You have to love what you do in the business. And, that's the most important thing. That television time is expensive. And like I talked with you guys about it before. And so you only got, they can give you a gimmick, in most cases, they want to own that gimmick because it's all like when you get up there with like WWF or WWE and that, it's all about the merchandising. It's all about these different things. So that name they put on you is trademarked, and it's all about, getting that gimmick over. babyface or heel, and selling, getting yourself over as a a prominent figure in the business, that somebody recognizes, somebody either likes or hates. You got as many heel fans that love heels and want to see somebody get their ass beat as you do with baby faces, kiss babies and do their deal and that stuff. I mean, it's one or the other. They may hate you because you're a baby, and then they'll love you when you turn heel. I mean, what in the business, what Malenko taught us was, you get, like, if you had a baby face, the more over that you are as a character, okay, the more over you get with the fans and the more they love you and that stuff, when it comes time to switch, the more over you are, the more they're gonna hate you for being a traitor, just like they've just done with John Cena, with the angle they've worked with him and The Rock and all of them on TV with WWE.
I mean, see how that's going to end. I'm just so curious to see, because he's going to end a babyface at on his last match.
Well, not necessarily.
You don't think so? Oh, I don't know. I think he's going to end up. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just can't see him going out as a heel. I don't know.
Just when you think you have all the questions, they change the scenario.
Roddy Piper.
That's even before Roddy Piper. That's a Captain Lou Albano thing. Are you kidding me? Just when you know all the answers, I change the questions.
I changed the questions.
Yeah. He also, by the way, just because I used to love the Captain, he was great, right? I loved him, but he also said one time that if you put the brain of Bruno Sammartino in a parakeet, it would fly backwards. So I thought that was pretty good. I was 11 years old at the time. I thought it was pretty hysterical.
They had the best managers in WWF.
Absolutely.
When it was WWF, they had the Grand Wizard.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God.
Freddie Blassie.
Classy Freddie Blassie.
Freddie Blassie, Lou Albano, I'm saying the list goes on and on and on.
That's when I grew up watching.
You got Jimmy Hart. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. I mean, just incredible. Great characters. Right now, the guy that owns ECW, Paul Heyman.
Sure.
He roomed with me and my tag partner in Tennessee for a brief time. And here's a poor guy that's in the South that came from up north, okay, New York, Philly area, what I'm saying? And then comes in down there in the midst of redneck heaven. And, and that's before now. I tell people this all the time because now they've got smartphones. You can go online. You can look at all the old school promos that have come down the line and pick and choose different things and pull out of their repertoire of, things that, how to conduct themselves and how to talk in an interview. He would be there. We'd come back from a town, say we were in Louisville, Kentucky. We'd drive back to Nashville because we were based out of Nashville. And he stayed with us for a little while. And when he was there, and he would be 2, 3, 4 in the morning in the bathroom. Went to bed, and he's in there working on his promos.
Wow.
Because, before all that stuff, Malenko, he had told me, you got that mirror. You don't have TV, you don't have camera, but you got a mirror, and you can see your facial expression, work on your facial expressions, and talk, and a multitude of different things, and you self-taught. And here's a guy that does the best promos in the business and gets heat, immense heat, from the average fans. They hated him. He's arrogant, he's smart, he's intelligent, I'm saying, a whole different animal.
Well, I'm gonna look at the timelines, Fred. So you were in the WWE, you were Tugboat, you were the Typhoon, what was the first character? Was it the Shockmaster?
No, actually, like I said, I'm Austrian, Hungarian bloodline from my dad and his family. And then my mom's, I'm a mutt. my mom's from West Virginia, West by God, Virginia, and she's, you know, the redneckest kind of girl, and smart lady though, smart. But anyway, when I was first getting around the business and stuff like that, I'm like, I learned so much, you know, and like I said, I had good mentors. I started 84 probably, 83, 84 is when I first started training. And I had a ton of good guys that were there, but every territory that I went to, there was guys there. If they showed that you were legit, that you cared about the business, you know, they had no problem in working with you on the off days and stuff like that, because there was always somewhere where there was a ring, no matter the territory you were in, and that, or you could get in there early before a show, and you know, in the afternoon, and then later that night you work, you know, you could work and that, and it ain't like that back in the day. Everybody's, you know, oh, you guys train together, that's how you do it, you know, that's how, you do this and you do that and everything like that, but it ain't the deal. You know, when would you have time? I did a signing with High Spots online, and they had me sign a turnbuckle with all the gimmicks I had. I had 10 different gimmicks through the years.
Wow.
Boris's friend that I told you about from Germany, he seen me and he gave me the first one, the Mighty Siegfried, who was an old time, from back in the day, strongman, a German strongman. And he goes, it was fitting, seeing how I was and what I looked like and all that stuff. And he was very proud, you know, like I said, he was a gold medalist, Olympic gold medalist for Germany before he broke into business. And he trained submission wrestling on top of everything else. And anyway, the Mighty Siegfried was my first deal, and I was training, and then Malenko and them would run shows there in Tampa Bay, you know, so you're getting a chance to be in front of people. I've worked in flea markets in a ring. I worked in rodeo arenas.
Carnivals, I'm sure carnivals and fairs.
Carnivals, I've worked them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Part of the sideshow.
Stu, you were probably there.
You know, got like a $30 payday. That was your payday, and you were lucky to get a payday.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
But the Mighty Siegfried, then they sent me to Texas. And the guy that took over the promotion there in San Antonio looked at me, and he, out there in Texas, Bubba is a term of endearment out there. Like, hey, Bubba, how you doing, Bubba? They call each other that, you know, back then. You know, we want to make you this babyface character. You know, I had a Jeep, and, you know, I come in blue jeans and all that stuff. And I had friends that were into hot rods, and I used to build hot rods. And, well, they taken, you know, I came in there as Big Bubba and got over, you know, for me, and especially green. I was green as goat crap back then, you know. It was learning on the job. You know, you weren't making a lot of money, but you were getting an education. And if you, like I was saying, you know, if you had guys that seen that you were serious and about loving the business and being part of the business, you know, they would, you know, we had a place where it was a studio type show that was across from the office, and it was originally another promoter that had that, and this guy named Fred Barron bought the business, and bought the business from him, and that was Tully Blanchard's dad, Tully that wrestled for NWA and all that. He was actually, what do you call it? He was actually up there, and he worked for WWE with Arn Anderson.
Arn Anderson,
sure. They were tag partner. Brainbusters,
yeah.
Yes. And his dad owned that territory. And
Joe Blanchard?
Joe Blanchard.
Joe, yeah.
who was a wrestler back in the day for his own,
Well, because his daughter, Tully's daughter now is wrestling. Let's say fourth generation.
That's Tully's daughter.
Yeah. Tessa Blanchard. Yeah, she's like a fourth
Yeah.
generation.
Oh, yeah. And she's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But then her daddy was good.
Oh, unbelievable. Give him a microphone, put him in the ring, either or. Yeah.
Well, let's get let's get into some of your characters, WWE characters.
Okay.
We're gonna also, we're not breaking the news tonight, Fred. It's been broken by the WWE. We'll talk about that too.
No.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that.
Oh, what is that news, Les? What is that news?
What is that news?
What is that news? All right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Can I announce it? Because I'm so proud to announce it, because this is your first.
I'm getting excited.
This is your first.
I'm starting my job. Hey, I'm starting my job as a male stripper. Tons of buns. Okay, tons of buns. I know you want to see me with my stuff.
I'll be right next to you, Fred. I'll be buck naked.
No one.
I'm Buff Bubba.
No.
New gimmick.
No one has made me crack up on the show yet, and that's a first right now. But before, we have some questions.
Stay long enough, and you'll see.
No, we have some questions. But I do want to break some really awesome news. And Schwartz Talking Sports is super excited and proud to break this. That people have not heard this. It's happening. You and your former tag partner, the late great John Tenta of the Natural Disasters, you were Typhoon, he was Earthquake, are being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in April.
Well, thank you very much.
Excited, psyched.
It's a great honor. It's a great honor. I was talking to John's son today.
That's awesome. That's great. We're so proud, and I can't wait to see you. I'm going to meet you on Saturday. We'll get to that as well. But before we go forward, we do have questions from our live audience. So we're going to throw it out to the woman who does it the best, my question gal.
Question gal.
Wait
that
a
my
second.
new moniker?
It's the chat girl. It's the chat.
My
No, it's the
question
chat
gal.
girl. I should know this. I mean, my God, she's my fiance. All right, chat girl, Joni. What do we? Well, you're not here all the time, and I'm doing this thing.
I know.
Okay, who do we got, Joni? What do we got?
Okay, so Rob wants to know, where did the nickname Tugboat come from?
There you go.
No nickname. They called me in the office.
That's true.
The first 6 to 8 months that I wrestled. I came from Florida, where I was wrestling as the Big Steel Man. I had just gotten back. I wrestled in Graz, Austria, where Arnold's from.
Yes.
I was there for 10 days to work with the champion, Otto Vance, that was there. And I came back, and then we had done a big show before I left. And that's when he booked me to go over there. And then when I came back, I went to the office to see the guys and stuff like that, so I could go back and start working, hopefully, or else get booked somewhere else. And all the people in the office, Steve Kern, Dusty Rhodes, Mike Graham, several guys that were involved with that promotion there. And they go, while you were gone, WCW, Kevin Sullivan contacted them, and then WWF had contacted them, and they're interested in you. And it was a great environment there, because they would sit and they would talk to you. It was like, talking with family, and they would let you know, they would say, we're not going to tell you to go here or go there. We're telling you what had transpired, and, and everything else is up to you, where you want to go, or to get a tryout and all that stuff. And I always wanted to go to WWF since I had started in the business, hopefully I was good enough at some point. And then they go, Fred, if this is what you want to do, that, and then I call, I had said that, and that's really that's right before Dusty had went to WWF. He was there working in Florida. I worked cage matches with him and all that stuff. Mm. And
was that for Mike Graham?
Mike Graham, Mike, Steve Kern. Oh. It was called the PWF, the Professional Wrestling Federation.
Yes.
So who got you the nickname? So who made Tugboat? Like, was it Vince McMahon? Was that his?
Like I said, I was there 6 to 8 months wrestling as the Big Steel Man when they brought me in.
Right.
Because everything's about developing a character and this and that and everything. They wanted to see how the people reacted to me. as far as what way I looked and this and that. And so I was working, for first, second, third matches, at the most maybe fourth. So like after about 6 to 8 months, they called me in the office at a TV, and Pat Patterson was there, Vince, and the cronies in charge and stuff, that were involved with that booking and that, and characters and stuff. And they go, we have, we had this idea for a character, and his name's Tugboat. He's a sailor. I says, let me get this right. Okay. And I've always been a goof. I'm inappropriate and I'm a goof. And I go, you want me to be a character? I still watch cartoons. You got to understand me. I still, not the new stuff,
right?
That I don't know, but old school to cartoons. And I'm like, you want me to be a cross between Popeye and Brutus in one character? They go, yeah, that's what we were looking at. I says, man, sign me up. It sounds like fun,
Okay.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
that's a great analogy for Tugboat.
The way I looked at it, I'm like, it can go so many ways, depending on how they wanted to do the program and that stuff. So it was cool, and the rest is history. But what was really scary is when I was doing that, they were working the angle with Quake and Dino Bravo, and I got drug into it. And here I am. I've been working a while, but I'm like, I was scared because, they want me to go out there with Hogan and that stuff. And here's the top baby face in the business at the time. And I'm like, holy shit, I get so nervous before I pop through the curtains. I need to go use the bathroom 3 or 4 times, pee, because my nerves, because you're out there with the top guy. You want to do a good job, and you want, you want to perform well and everything. As it wasn't that I didn't have lack of confidence, but when you got the top guy, and everything revolves around that, but then it wound up being a good thing, in the end.
Well,
and then again, when I turned on Hogan, and then in that tag match that you played early, I got people that still hate me for turning on the Bushwhackers, the roughest, nastiest, top bloodiest guys in the business when they were the sheep herders.
Right. And
Vince turned them into baby faces, goofy with the hats, with part of the hat bitten away and all that stuff and everything. It was, and like I said, these guys would have barbed wire matches. They would have barbed wire ropes, the whole 9 yards.
They were hardcore. They were hardcore.
Amazing.
Well, that was a great question, Rob. About the Tugboat. What else we have, Joni?
So Stuart Detlefson.
Stu Detlefson.
Who did you team up with when you won the WWF Tag Team Championship?
Oh, and this is the prelude to the Hall of Fame, Fred.
Earthquake.
Yeah, Earthquake.
My brother from another mother. That's why I refer to him as.
There you go.
Yeah. He was the best. It's hard being in tag teams on the road because usually it's high maintenance. If that makes any sense. There's guys that have missed shots, overslept, missed flights, this and that, and you're a tag team. It's important for you both to show up at the same time, and there can be issues, not being ugly about anybody or any, but it's one of those deals, that can affect an angle and all that stuff. They get, they've got lots of money and lots of time invested in you, and there's a lot of guys. It was like when you get these many guys on the road with that much testosterone in them, and so much time on their hands, and you're on the road 300 days minimal a year. Okay, stuff happens. Lots of ribs, lots of different things can transpire, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
No, you beat me to the punch, Fred. You beat me to the punch because I got my one question I want to ask you a little later. But
yes.
Who was the best on the road, not story-wise, because there's a million stories, pranks, ribs. Who was the best to travel with on the road while you were traveling?
Hold on, Fred, before you answer that, because we've
Yeah.
That's a good question, Stu. We've got questions backed up. I know Joni's
Yes.
giving me the nod. So
Oh.
I'm going to go to a commercial break. I think, Tony, we set that up, right? Are we okay with that? Okay, we're at 30 minutes in. Let's go to commercial break. We want to have Fred answer that question from Stu. We've got more questions. And then I got to get to the Shockmaster. I've got to get to the Hall of Fame. I got to get to, you're going to be in Clayton, North Carolina this Saturday. We want to talk about that, and we're going to get all that angle out. So we are going to come back after 2. We'll be doing it with Fred Ottman and our special guest commentator for tonight, Stu Kaplan, after this.
Forever 24 Fit, Leland's only gym with 24-hour access. Get fit when it's convenient, utilizing Life Fitness, cardio, and weight machines. And for those of you who prefer free weights, there is a free weight area as well. Start your membership today and get on your way to a better you. Six Happiness. Enjoy fresh Asian cuisine in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere where we believe good times deserve great food. Featuring the best sushi chefs in the Leland area. So come on in, and we guarantee you will be delighted.
Welcome back to Swartz Talking Sports. Tonight it's Swartz Talking Wrestling. Fred, I got my sunglasses on. I'm ready to be a manager supreme right now. If you jump back into it with Stu and become the new tag team, I'm your manager. Just let you know. Anyway,
You see there? When you're cool, the sun shines 24 hours a day.
That's right.
So
I like that. I like that, Fred. I like that. So listen, we got like 5 more questions, but why don't we address the question, Stu? Why don't you throw that question out there to Fred again?
Well, basically, like I know, like I trained with Killer Kowalski, so I did a little bit of wrestling. Nothing, nothing big time, but a lot of traveling. We traveled, different places, but.
Whoops.
There must have been somebody that, for you, was just somebody that you loved to travel with, whether it was hardcore stories on the road, ribs on the road. Was there anybody that you just love to talk about being on the road with?
I had the full spectrum of guys that you had the ribbers. I traveled a lot when I was with WWF. Usually when me and Quake were together, it was me, Quake, and Jimmy Hart and Dave Hebner, one of the referees, the twin referees.
Yeah.
Earl worked in the office, and Dave did the deal. He came off the road and worked there. But I remember too, if you're singles night, when I was a Tugboat, I'd have Iron Sheik. Baby, Tugboat, Bubba, Tugboat. You maybe let Iron Sheik ride with you. Tugboat, and you have me. It's okay for me to room with you. And I'm like, yeah, sure, because nobody wanted to drive, because he don't drive. He wouldn't drive, and and they didn't want to room with him. But he was a good guy. I loved Nikolai Volkov. He was a hell of a guy, and he liked me. He liked traveling with me because he was big into opera, he's like he liked all the tenors and all that stuff and everything, and the boys didn't want to hear that crap, what I'm saying? But me, I love that. I love all kind of music. I played drums and timpanis and all that stuff going through junior high school and that stuff. And I played drums since I was like 13, 14 years old. Wow. And but he was awesome, and he always traveled with a frying pan and a pot, a hot plate was packed in his deal, and he cooked probably one of the best steaks you ever ate inside the room. He'd go to the grocery store, pick up some steaks and a couple of different things and make a salad and steak in the room, because like I said, it's all about saving money on the road. Even though these guys are making great money, we were making good money with WWF, but and make in the morning oatmeal, what I'm saying? It was funny. And then you had the guys like Bret Hart's brother that died, falling from the ceiling and that, Owen, and he was a big ribber, and You know, just like Davey Boy and his partner, big rippers. You know what I'm saying?
Dynamite Kid, yeah, Tom Billington.
You come back and maybe have your suitcase paddle locked to the ceiling pipe, 14 foot in the air. How the hell do you get it up there 14 feet in the air? So, I mean, just all kind of crazy shit like that, you know, but I mean, it was, you know, when you got that much testosterone and nothing, guys got nothing but time on their hands and this and that. Yeah. That's the things that happen, you know, plus there's fights every once in a while, you know, different guys get into it and, you know, just a little insanity, you know, on the road.
Well, when you're on the road that long, Fred, and that much, and we're going to get into that. I want to address that if one of the questions is not about how much you guys are on the road and how difficult it is. But let's have Joni ask some more questions.
Okay. Daniel Kisthart, he asks, after financials, what's most rewarding, providing entertainment and providing entertainment, garnering some adoration, competition for a title, the journey?
So I guess the question, to break it down from Danny, is you know, once you make your money, you battle all the way to the WWF at that time. Yeah. You start to be a headliner. You know, you're a guy. You get heat, and you make some money, right? You make some money after you do that.
You make some good money.
Yeah, and then kind of how is it after that? You know, what's is it about titles? Is it about fan adulation?
Like I've loved the business from the get-go. Like I said, I was a fan from a young age. Mm-hmm. It's nice when kids come to the table and they've watched all this stuff with their grandparents or their mom, their dad, you know, and they know who I am. And their parents probably watched me when they was that 8-9-year-olds, you know, age, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, but it's great. Fans, without the fans, the business would be nowhere. That's why a lot of times when I see some people in the business that are kind of rude or a little bit disrespectful, you know, and yeah, I mean that's their business. But you know, guys, you know, they bring their you know, action figures and they buy pictures and do photo ops and all that stuff. And you know, it's a great honor to be these people coming to me and wanting that stuff or appreciate what I did on TV. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because you got fans are all over the place. You know, there's people that'll hate the fact that I'm going in the Hall of Fame. Then there's a ton of people that I've been getting messages from on social media and stuff like that. Or, you know, it's about time you and John and blah, 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 and all that. And there's always a lot of guys that haven't been committed yet, you know, to it. And, you know, there's mixed emotions and stuff like that. And I just feel blessed that they're bringing me and John there and going to honor us that way. We'll be in front of young guys and guys that have been working in the business long periods of time. And, you know, it's my wife's going with me and, you know, she's excited about it and everything like that. But, you know, I'm just it's a great honor. I'll get to see Quake's family there. Mm-hmm. And his son, Johnny, is real good friends with my oldest boy that does television production for WWE.
Oh, okay.
And he's there now. And he went through wrestling school. My son did. That's what he wanted to do. My wife from my first marriage, she didn't care much for it and everything. But now that he's successful and making money, you know, you know, it's one of those deals. But it's, you know, I'm very proud of him. He's just gotten a little bit of another push and everything. He's always there most of the time ringside. They go, his job is, if you looked up his Wikipedia, is what he called, he rings the bell to start the matches and end the matches. But he's been involved in some angles and all that stuff and everything, but that's not his job. He has a very large laundry list of things that he does, from getting the buildings all booked up, working with the television crews and all that stuff and everything. And he's just been over on the European tour. He started out in Spain. Okay. He was in Mallorca. He was in, I forgot where else. He was in Portugal. He was in, he just was in Italy for almost a week. and he was in Belgium, and I was telling him stories. He read me, got a hold of me the other day, and I was telling him about funny stuff that happened in Belgium. We were at a 5-star high-end hotel, and if you walked across the street to the next block, there, I don't know if you've ever been to Holland,
No.
where the girls are in lingerie and sit in the windows.
Oh, you're talking about the red light district there? Yeah.
The red light district.
I haven't been there, though. I haven't been there.
Yeah.
Hey,
I really
Right,
haven't.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. Honey, I don't know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we went to across the street. Now there's me, Barbarian, Hacksaw. There's like 8 of us, Haku, all of us, and we went and ate dinner. So we're taking a walk. So we walk across the street, and the first thing is an adult bookstore. Okay, we walk inside, and everybody's from Jamaica with dreadlocks inside this place. And then we were there. The guys see us come in and that stuff, and these monsters, and they're like, but we were curious. We walked in, and they were like, that was funny. Then we walk out. We walk around the corner. What's there? They got the girls sitting on stools in the windows in lingerie outfits. Okay, you knock on the door, and they answer, and blah, 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 you make your deal or whatever you do. I guess you do there. We just watched other people do the deal. We went to the corner and turned the corner. There's 200 girls lining the street that, and the Belgian police are there in their little car that they were in. And they go, "Oh, you gentlemen, you don't need to go here. You don't need to go here." I says, "Yeah, you're right, buddy." But I just thought it was funny. It's right across from this beautiful hotel. We just finished dinner and taking a walk, and this is what we have. I mean, literally, 15, 20 feet away, and I thought it was funny.
Well, you brought up, so before I know we have a couple of questions, and we got about another 10 minutes or so, but I really want to squeeze a bunch in here. So you brought up the figurine. So we've got a famous figurine here. This is courtesy of Petros from Wilmington Generator. Thanks, Petros, for supplying us with this.
Awesome.
Okay, so you are really very much associated with a gimmick that let's just say now, when I talked, let me tell everyone out there, when I talked to Fred Sunday, he said to me, "Les, when you're having a really bad day, I want you to go on YouTube and show this video, and you'll get a laugh at my expense." Now, this was a I would say embarrassing, let's say an inauspicious debut for this character. Isn't that inauspicious? That's pretty good. I like that one. We're going to have Tony, I think if he's got it queued up. Everybody, I want you to see this. This is the introduction of the Shockmaster. Okay, so Fred, in the Shockmaster vernacular, or let's just say the way that Shock, his accent, why don't you tell us what was supposed to happen and what did happen?
Well, I literally snapped. It was built like a wall. It was Flair for the Gold, and it was leading, actually, I was the mystery partner, because I have people all the time, "How are you going to wrestle in that mask?" All this and that. I said, "You don't understand. The mask was, all that was there for was to hide who I was, because I was fresh off of WWF TV, and so they gave me the introduction and millions of people have watched this video. And that's why I always say that. I says, when you're having a really bad day, you watch that and you'll have a much better day at my expense. But I'm not responsible if you wet your pants, from laughing. But, Mike Graham was the one that gave me the cue. There was no way I still own that helmet. And I've used it on the Edge and Christian show when we did the revamp. They were trying to do it over and, to save me, and redo it and make it right. But anyway, they go, Mike Graham goes to me, he goes, "They didn't gimmick this wall." And it was 14-foot wall at least. So sheetrock comes in, most of the time in 4x8 sheets. It was 5/8 sheetrock, and it was 2x4s. Okay. every 12 to 14 inches. It's like building a wall in your house, but it didn't have the sheetrock on the backside. And they didn't gimmick the wall. And Mike Graham's telling me, he goes, Fred, you're going to have to, you know, at that point I was benching over, you know, like at 650 in the gym. Oof. You know, I was, you know, I didn't have a problem. I bumped holes in my, the house I grew up in when I was a kid. My mom used to get on me, you know, bust holes in the sheetrock and that stuff. But I actually busted 5 2x4s. And then, but when they made the wall that high, right below my kneecaps was an extension. Okay. It was a, you know, lateral board that went all the way across. Okay. So they could extend the height of the wall. And so when I busted the top, I said, don't worry, Mike. I don't need them to gimmick this. I can take and bust this stuff. No problem, man. And I hit it double overhead axe handle and hit that wall and snapped 5 boards, 4 or 5 of them. And I hit it so hard that I became a teeter-totter. And whoosh, instead of, I'm in a mask you can't see out of. And there was no way to microphone that mask. It wasn't like I couldn't do promos, okay? But they go, you know, I snapped that deal like that and fell through the wall. My most important thing was to take and get up and pull that helmet, turn my head so they couldn't see my face. I don't know how good that was, but pulled the helmet on, got up, you know, and then pantomimed the promo. And it was actually Ole Anderson that did the promo for that.
Okay.
Who also did, back in the day, the Black Scorpion.
Black Scorpion. Famous.
The voice for the Black Scorpion.
Ric Flair. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there we go.
Right.
We had to get this in. We had to do that. Fred, thanks for giving us permission.
I want to add really quickly because I had met Fred. I've got my, you know, little action figure here, but I had met you and I wanted to ask you after that incident happened. Literally, I mean, everybody was there. Davey Boy, Sid, Sting. They were laughing. Everybody made a joke out of it. But I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the production meeting directly after that, because you were coming in as a major star for this team. You know, going into whatever it was, War Games or whatever. But
it was a 2-ring battle royal in New Orleans.
Yeah, but not
the next pay-per-view.
Remember that after that happened, they went right to the Uncle Fred character with all the little. Yeah, I remember, and this for me as a wrestling fan, unless you know this, I have been a wrestling fan since I was 9.
That's true.
I've done everything in the world of I love professional wrestling. This is one of my top 5 favorite characters, favorite things that I talk about to this day to everybody I know. It's just, it was an amazing part of wrestling, and any wrestling fan knows the Shockmaster. It probably did so much for your career, even now to this day, when you go to autograph shows. But what was the thought process with the Uncle Fred? Where did they want to go? Did they want to continue with the Shockmaster, or did they say we can't do it anymore because it's dead?
I actually had the pleasure of doing a signing in Charlotte at the big show that they throw there every year. Okay, it's usually a WCW prominent type show. And I was with David Crockett was next to me. Okay, if people know wrestling, they know that
Crockett family,
his family, and that they owned, you know, they were the before WCW when they were NWA territory.
Yeah, Georgia Championship Wrestling, the beginning of that.
Yeah, he was there, and he goes, and we were talking. He had his granddaughter who's 20s, in her early 20s, and we just had a good time talking because I'd never sat with him and talked with him much. He goes, you know, Fred, and because he was laughing because all these people were coming up. I usually have the helmet with me. I unfortunately won't have it this weekend because I'm revamping it, you know, doing some it's 30 plus years old, that helmet. and it's the one I used on the TV. And there's people who are like, how did you get that? I had a cameraman at WrestleMania in Orlando come to me that was in the truck. And he goes, he's seen it on the table. And I was across from all NWA guys. And they're like, but he goes, Fred, how did you get that? I said, brother, that's my issue that I had back in the day, you know, because after that was over, I was so upset because you always want things to go perfect, you know. And Dusty was in the back at the gorilla position, at what it's referred to as at the time. And the monitor's in front of him. When I walked around the corner, because it was his idea to do this, you know, and, you know, they gave me this helmet and we were like 25, 30 minutes before this thing's going on. And he goes, you're going to wear this. He gives me the helmet. I'm going to what? He goes, yeah, you're going to wear this. It's to hide your identity, brother. And I says, Dust, are you see? And he told me what he wanted done and the whole 9 yards and what the parameters were and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay. But when I walked after this thing, when I walked around the corner into where he was at, he was literally, okay, laughing so hard, tears are pouring, and he's looking down like this and shaking his head, and tears are pouring out of his eye. I says, you son of a bitch. I says, thank you. you know, and that's my brother-in-law. So at that time, and I'm like, we had fun with that. But anyway, it's one of those deals that it lives in infamy. Okay.
That it
And
does.
it will,
because
it will forever.
Well,
and that figure is the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. That is what that figure is. It represents from Mattel. It was only sold there. Okay. They've now gone up in value, I think, to like $200, $250 for a figure.
Well, I want to get. Well, first of all,
unsigned.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting us do that because you know it was kind of some fun stuff.
Yeah.
But so we've got about I got about maybe 7 minutes left, and I'm going to try to cut this to 1 hour. Let's get as many. Okay, let's throw some questions and get as quick answers as we can.
How many questions can I?
How many do you have?
I have like 8.
8. All right. Let's get them. If Fred can answer them quick, let's do them. Let's go.
Okay.
Boom, boom, boom. Rapid fire.
Are the professional wrestling matches fully scripted? Are the winners predetermined?
Yes or no, Fred? Are they predetermined?
Not back in my day.
No.
Really?
All you know was a finish that they wanted to use. Everything else was, you know, you didn't practice. You didn't, you know, I heard that so many times in my career. Oh, you guys get together and you practice. I said, brother, you know, 300 plus days a year, you know, and traveling is not done into the configuration. It's all part of the deal. Okay. And there's no time to practice, you know, but that's one of those things, you know, it's a misconception.
All right. Good. Whose question was that?
Oh, that was Rob.
Oh, Rob.
Sorry.
Okay. Good question, Rob. What do we got next?
That was a good question. It's Daniel Kisthart. Would you do anything different coming up if you could do it again now?
Oh, would you do anything different, Fred?
Well, you never have a control over what happens. You know, you come down the line and what transpires is what transpires. You can try to do everything you can, but, you know, there's things I would change, you know, or stuff I would do, or, you know, a little bit different.
Okay.
But opportunities are opportunities, you know, and that's the biggest thing, you know, take advantage of opportunities in this business, you know, and not cry. There's a lot of guys that cry, whine, and that stuff because they don't like the hand that was dealt to them, you know, unfortunately.
Okay. What else we got?
Matthew Dunn. How many days each year would you wrestle at the peak of your career?
Ooh, that's a good one. I was going to ask that.
Almost 30 years I wrestled, no less.
How many days in a year, though?
Fred,
how many days in a year would you wrestle? Out of 365 days?
No, minimal is 300.
Wow.
I remember being with Bill Eadie, who was half of Demolition.
Oh, yeah.
And when they were there before me, okay, they were there first. And I remember Bill telling me, because I love them guys. I love that. I'm happy that they just got the Legends agreement that they got and the whole 9 yards. The other parts are not far away. But anyway, they with those guys. Bill told me 1 year he wrestled 365 days straight, was off 1 day, and went right back on the road.
Oh my God! See, that's insane.
That's how it was.
I mean,
And see, the only difference between the big companies and the territories is you were driving everywhere. When my roommate in Texas, he was dating a manager for budget rental cars,
oh,
and we were getting Lincolns for like $19.99 a day.
Oh, all right.
You know, he was the mystery date. Anyway, he goes. She used to give these deal, but we had to trade him in all the time. You know, only could keep him for like once. You know, because we were putting anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 miles a week.
Ooh.
Okay.
You
drive with like 4 different guys.
Wow.
You split the gas. You split the lease, and but you have to turn them in and stuff like that. You know, don't want to get the girl in trouble. She's giving us the major deal of deals. You know, you're riding in comfort and stuff like that. But a lot of those Monday morning you used to cut promos down at the office, and then most of the time it would be either Midland, Texas, or Odessa, Texas. It's out in the oil fields out west Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you come to it before you get out to El Paso. El Paso's 450 miles from San Antonio.
Wow.
One way. It's because you drive out there, then you would wrestle, then you would ride back. Now remember, you're 4 guys in the car in that. But what's cool is you always had the old school guys in the car with you, because they knew in Texas they have a lot of dry counties, like a lot of places in the South, and they knew where all the beer stops. But man, depending where you were on the card, they'd be there. Come on, let's go. He goes, you come back from the match, if and they'd be on your butt trying to get you out of there so they'd go make the beer stop. These guys would buy cases of beer, and oh my God, it'd be thousands of jackrabbits, big jackrabbits. They're like 2.5, 3 feet tall on their hind legs.
Jeez.
Thousands of them on the side of the road.
Wow.
Amazing.
Well,
but yeah, we drive all the way back to San Antonio, go to bed, be up for the next town the next day.
All right. I was going to say no more. We're at 58 minutes. Joni's throwing up the signal. She said one more. Okay.
Just one
This
more.
is the last question for tonight's special guest, future Hall of Famer, WWE Hall of Famer, Fred Ottman.
Okay. K-Mac, have some of the spots in wrestling gone too far for the wrestler's safety?
Well, it depends what companies. Every high risk maneuver, there's always a chance of ending your career. And there's a lot of that, both men and women. And AEW's come along and they've kind of gone in reverse there. It's kind of a crossover between back in the NWA days and the ECW days, as far as blood and all that different stuff and that. I've had close to just about 80 concussions in my career. Okay, in the wrestling ring, 80 concussions.
80 concussions.
80 concussions. Oof. I have 160 stitches that have been put into my noggin. Oof. I've got 3 fingers broken one hand, 2 fingers broken the other, both thumbs. And I've bone chips in both elbows, but they had to be cut out. And my orthopedic's awesome. Oof. And just all kind of that's part of the business. What I'm saying, things happen. But there's guys, when Malenko was when Dean Malenko was at his hottest, okay, in WWF. If you ever see pictures of him when he's wrestling in the ring, and they have an angle hitting his back of his neck. When I first started training, he had broken his neck and he had a scar where they stitched his, after they did worked on him. You could see it. But I mean, if you ever see any reels of him working and that stuff, if they get any good close-ups, you might be able to see it. Yeah.
All right, let's go. Yeah. What do we got? 2 more?
2 more.
Two more. Okay, Fred, okay. Can you stand 2 more questions from our amazing audience?
My name is Jimmy. I'll take all you can give me.
Well, I did skip a few other ones, but
all right, let's go.
Okay. Did any K-Mac again? Did any wrestlers take liberties with some of the enhancement talent?
I don't understand what that question is, but
oh yeah, oh no, I'm sure they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys can
And
explain
not
what that
everybody
is.
Not everybody plays well with others. And
Okay.
then a lot of the some of the enhancement talent is kind of green. You know, they would bring them in, you know, a guy would bring in 8 or 10 guys to the TV, and, you know, they would pick out guys, you know, doing squash matches and stuff like that and everything. And, you know, all guys can think about is getting themselves over. I'd get reprimanded if I gave anybody anything, you know, sometimes.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But, you know, but some guys don't play well with others. That's all I could tell you.
Okay.
Took advantage. Took advantage of
Okay.
it.
All right.
But, you know, it's like me. I know that I was kind of snug when I broke in and that stuff and everything like there, you know, and, but yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, some guys, or if they screw up, there's some guys that will,
Okay.
you know, with enhancement that will, oh my Lord,
All right.
you know, and all you can do is, you know,
Take it, smile.
yes.
All right. Good question,
That's where
K-Mac.
the realism comes in.
All right. What do we got? One more?
Yeah, let's
One
do
more.
one more. Okay, tech for fun. Anyone ever pick a street fight with you?
Oh, I don't think I would,
Me?
but Fred, anybody ever pick a street fight with you?
No, that's not my deal, you know.
Oh, I
I'm
know
a
you wouldn't
shooter.
do anything.
I'm a
You're a
shooter,
good
not a
guy.
fighter.
Yeah, you're a good guy.
Huh?
But nobody ever approached you on the street and like wanted to try
you know,
you.
you have people that are dumbasses, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, I'm the guy that you'd really worry about because I'm a nice guy, but I don't have a problem shooting you.
No, jeez.
You
Okay.
know, it's just yeah.
I gotcha.
It is.
I gotcha.
Yes.
Safety first. You got to take care of yourself. I get it.
Yeah.
Well,
My
listen.
wife won't understand. She's the one you have to worry about.
Well, first of all, I want to thank. Do we have any more, or we're pretty much it?
Ask away.
Actually,
away. He's saying ask
okay,
away.
good. All right. So, Daniel Kisthart, how great or how big of a Hall of Famer is Chief J Strongbow?
Oh, that's you going back to my old days. What did you think about out of Pahuska, Oklahoma, Chief J Strongbow? You like that, Stu?
I've actually worked with his old partner too.
Billy White Wolf?
Jules. Yeah, Jules.
No, Jules.
Strongbow.
Jules Strongbow.
Oh, Jules. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. How
But,
great was he? He was a heck of a wrestler in his day.
Well, when Tatanka came in, he took him under his wing.
Okay.
Okay, you know, doing the Indian gimmick and all that stuff, and you know, and gave him suggestions and stuff like that, which
Okay.
I thought was kind of cool.
Nice.
But he was a different kind of guy. Usually, if you were Strongbow was an agent.
Yeah.
So if you were on a town he was an agent. Usually, it was either Rene Goulet that was working with him, or oh my God, from New Zealand. Oh my God,
Tony Garea.
Tony Garea.
Yeah.
Who is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing guy.
Auckland, New Zealand. Auckland, New Zealand.
Auckland,
Okay.
New Zealand.
Who do we got? We got one more?
Yes, Daniel has another question.
Boy, Danny, I didn't know you were
Yeah.
into wrestling. I honestly did not know that. He's from Texas. Go ahead.
What are the differences between WWE versus WWF?
Ooh.
What are the
Theatrics?
difference? It's gone in cycles. At one point, it was PG, and another one, you know, another time in there. Then they started back in the Attitude Era. They started getting a lot more loose as far as stuff. Still, there was no blood and that stuff for the most part and everything, you know.
A lot of sexual sexploitation and all that kind of stuff, I thought.
Oh, well, you know, I mean, I don't know personally.
No,
You
just
know,
what I
but
saw, you know,
a
with
lot
the
of
women
stuff.
and McMahon and the kiss my ass thing and all that weird stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Stu,
Well,
right? Wasn't he doing that, Stu, with the kiss my boss, my ass or something? I don't know what it was.
Oh yeah,
I-
Vince, yeah. The kiss my ass.
You remember when they did the angle with Rikishi and Pat Patterson? When he had looked like he had a crap stain in the back of he dropped his pants and gave him the Rikishi deal.
The stink
Yeah.
face. The stink
The
face.
stinky face, yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
We
Talk
have
about lawsuit, I was
digressed
like, oh,
into
my
this.
God.
I don't know what's happening.
Fred,
We have
what did you say if you had to make an analogy that, you know, the WWF to the WWE, it was wrestling to entertainment. Back then it was, you know,
it was still good wrestling, good solid wrestling, but Vince, you know, and back then it wasn't writers, it was between the wrestlers and the office, you know, that would come up with the storylines and stuff like that. You know, who you were working and stuff like that, and they would try, you know, and that's what I saw. That was it going to the next level after Vince's dad was completely different. You know, you had Bruno Sammartino, who was champion for how many years?
Oh, God, ever.
Who was awesome.
But back then, that's what you had. You had Bruno for 8 to 10 years, Pedro for, you know, Backlund. They were all long-term champions that, you know, you had the regular match where they lost by a disqualification. Then they came back with the Texas Bull Rope match. Then it ended with the steel cage match. You know, that's what it was. And it went over year through arena to arena to state.
But you guys are missing my favorite guy who actually defeated Bruno. He was the man of the hour, the man with the power. He was too sweet to be sour. And that was superstar Billy Graham.
Billy Graham.
Who beat Bruno with the 2 feet on the ropes, and then he lost it again in Baltimore, unfortunately. Oh, no, he lost it in Madison. He won it in Baltimore and lost it in MSG like 6 weeks later or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was that was
insane.
back when I that's my heyday of wrestling. Okay, we done?
You know who I talked to earlier today that was watching your she went on there. I sent her part of the deal here. She worked for Glow. She was Hawaiian.
Oh.
And she worked for Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, who was Stallone's mom.
Right.
That ran that company. And I talk to her all the time. She's a sweetheart. And she sent me a message. She goes, "Man, I love this that you sent me about your sports show." She goes, "God, they have awesome sports stuff on." She's a sports fan. And she goes,
"Our show?
I can't stop looking at all the shows that you've had on there.
Our show?
Here on this show."
You mean our show?
That's impressive, Les. That's impressive.
Wow, I like it. All right. Well, you'd have to reach out to her and tell her, you know, we'll have to have her on the show sometime.
She had a business dinner this evening. So she goes, "I'll try and pull it up," you know, because I told her, you know, about it, you know, but she was enthralled with you know, watching it and looking at all the different guests that you've had on and the topics and stuff like that. Yeah.
Look at that.
I thought that was kind of cool.
We've struck a chord. I like it. It. Very impressive. Yeah. Well, listen, Fred, I just want to let everyone know out there in the North Carolina area, if you're within driving distance, hey, listen, Tony and I are making the 2-hour trek out to Clayton, North Carolina this Saturday night, March 29th.
Yes.
It is the Ivan Koloff Memorial Tag Team Tournament. But Fred Ottman, the WWE's latest Hall of Famer, as one half of the Natural Disasters, coming to Clayton Fitness Center the 29th. Meet and greet. Yes. Fred, what time are you going to be there?
I will be there probably I'm an early get to the place.
Okay.
Early. A guy named Mike Baez, his son runs about 15. He has 15 different Comic-Cons that he does all across the country, Virginia, Georgia, all over the big ones, the 2-3 day deals. And he's the one that's bringing me in for this event here.
Okay.
He had contacted me about it.
Well,
great guy. He always has, if you're into magazines, he always has the old school wrestling magazines.
Oh, the Wrestler and Wrestling Insider back in the day. Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, listen, for all those people out there that want to get a chance to rub elbows with a WWE Hall of Famer, please come down to the Clayton Fitness Center, Clayton, North Carolina, this Saturday night. I believe the actual meet and greet starts at 6 p.m., I believe. So Fred will be there. Yours truly, my producer, Tony the Tiger Smeraldi, the wizard, the man behind the scenes, will be there as well. We're going to cut a quick promo with you, Fred, if you give us an opportunity. What do you think?
Oh, my goodness.
Come on. I'll
try. Just tell me what you want, and I will deliver.
Oh, you the man. I like it. Well, listen, we thank you so much for coming on. I know you're going to get bombarded in the next few days to the next coming weeks with this WWE Hall of Fame induction. Again, standing ovation. Well-deserved, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on Sports Talking Sports, and we'll see you Saturday night in Clayton, North Carolina at the Ivan Koloff Memorial Tag Team Tournament. Stu, again, thanks so much. It's your third time coming on. You are my wrestling insider. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Fred, I just want to say, if I throw this word out, mark, you know what a mark is. And I would never use that for me. I would never use it for me, but when I met you 3 years ago, and even to right now, this is a highlight for me, just to be able to say that I was on a show talking with you and being a co-host on this show. This is no joke. I have this. It's in. You can see all the stuff behind me. This is one of my prized possessions. It was a part of my life, and I got to meet you, like I said, in Massachusetts about 3 years ago. I'll never forget it.
That's awesome.
Well, Fred, listen, safe travels to North Carolina. We'll see you Saturday night. Stu, have a fantastic weekend. Listen, I'm going to be back because we might have a show next week. I'm not sure. It could be something very special. We're working on something, so I'm going to talk about that. Fred, see you Saturday. Stu, good weekend. We'll be right back.
Look forward to it.
After
Thanks,
this.
Fred, thank you.
Awesome.
Swartz, that was a great show tonight. It was just so cool, I think, to have Fred come on, Fred Ottman, and he's going to be, inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame with, the late great John Tenta as one half of the Natural Disasters, a tag team, champions back in the early 90s. So really excited to have Fred come on board here, and again, Stu for making time to come on as well. That'll be this Saturday night. March 29th, I think doors open at 6 p.m. at the Clayton Fitness Center in Clayton, North Carolina. The NCWA promotion, it's going to be great. Ricky Morton's going to be there. Shane Douglas is going to be there. The Barbarian's going to be there. So if you're a wrestling fan in Eastern North Carolina, you want to check out this show. I will be there doing the promos pre and post match. And if you want an autograph from yours truly, I just might have to give you one. So listen, guys, normally we do the shows every Wednesday. We might have something for you next Wednesday. We were scheduled to have an off day, but there might be some important news in the junior college ranks, believe it or not, when it comes to eligibility. And we're trying to set up a potential taping show that Tony and I will run. We'll do it Monday or Tuesday. We'll run it for Wednesday as normal. And then the following week, we will be back. I believe it's the 9th of April. We'll be back with yours truly, Al, the Rattler Chester, and Benny the Book for a regular show. We'll probably be talking college basketball. My final four guys are still alive. I still got Michigan State. I still have Florida. They play Joni's team, Maryland, tomorrow night. It's going to be the battle of the families. Half the, we got half the Willard family, Simmons family on the Florida Gator side. We got the other half on Maryland. So that's going to be interesting back and forth. And you also have, I believe, Duke and Cooper Flag. And I still have, I think, the number 2 seed Tennessee alive as well. So that's going to be interesting. In college hockey, the Frozen Four and the playoffs start this tomorrow. Maine in action Friday, BU in action tomorrow. So listen, great show. I want to thank everyone out there who contributed to tonight's show. If this is your first time, please hit that subscribe button. Comment. Let us know how you like the show. Let us know who you want. You never know. We can get anybody. It's pretty amazing what we can do these days. And I want to thank Joni, my amazing chat girl, for coming in and doing the chat with me tonight. The man behind the scenes, the wizard, Tony the Tiger Smeraldi. He, as always, he runs them all. He makes the show work. So for everybody here at Sports Talking Sports, I'm wishing everybody a great week and a great upcoming weekend. We'll hopefully see you Wednesday. Check out our shorts over the weekend. Good night, everybody.